Hey guys, this is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'm doing a first impressions on the brand new Inov-8 F-Lite Fly G 295. So this model literally launched this week, and if you've never seen it before, for a little bit of context and background, Inov-8 Training has been teasing this shoe out on their Instagram page for quite some time, talking about like why run when you can fly. So the shoe is basically a running shoe that you can also use for light training and explosive work. So the way I like mentally categorize them and the way I've been using them in my training sessions is blending in some sprint work, some mileage, and then adding in some lower body accessories and body weight work. And that's where I think this shoe is going to excel the most. So if you want a hybrid running shoe, this model could be worth looking into. And I will have a full review up on this model later next week. So make sure to check back at the channel for that if you're interested in this shoe. So my first impression in this shoe is that I think this shoe is going to take some getting used to for most lifters, athletes, and runners. And so this includes myself. When I first put this model on, I wasn't actually sure how I felt about it. I wasn't really sure how I was going to implement it into my training. I wasn't sure about the fit and feel because we do have a pretty wide sole construction down here that flares out from the base of the shoe. But after like my fourth session in this model, it kind of clicked and I was like, oh, I get it. And then I figured out how to implement the shoe into my current training block. And so that being said, what makes this shoe interesting is the G-Fly Plus construction in the midsole. So we have this EVA foam here that sits atop this like G-Fly tech, and essentially the blend of these two are designed to give you a lot of ground feedback and energy return with your running. And so I feel like the reason it took so long for me to kind of understand this model is because these features need to break in a little bit. And so after about like 5 to 10 miles in the shoe and a bunch of sprints, the toe box started to break in more and I started to get a lot more feedback with this model, which kind of really fed into like why I'm starting to really enjoy this shoe for my training. So my first impression is that I'm happy Inov-8 implemented their graphene construction in this model. So that stands for the G in the name, so the F-Lite Fly G 295. Essentially, graphene is a material that Inov-8 has been using in their running, training, and hiking shoes since 2018, and it's designed to be very durable. And as a whole, I think the sole construction of the shoe should stand the test of time for most folks who plan to use these on treadmills and for outdoor training. I do like that feature in this model, but what I will say is with this shoe, the grip is a little bit hit or miss. So on concrete, rubber gym floors, and on treadmills, the shoe grips a ton. Like you get a lot of grip from this model. But what I noticed is that on turf and on grass, the grip does fall short a little bit. And I think that's because we don't really have any sticky rubber or an aggressive lug patterning in this model. So if you're running in the shoe on tracks, outdoors on concrete, or on treadmills, the shoe is gonna be great. But for more explosive lateral work on turf and grass, I did notice this shoe slip a little bit. So just something to keep in mind there. So while I like the graphene construction and the grip on some surfaces, it is a little bit hit or miss on others depending on what you're doing. Now, if you're doing static strength work on turf and grass, you're gonna be fine. So if you're doing like lunges, split squats, or even kettlebell work, you're gonna be fine with this model. But again, for like more explosive work where you're cutting and whatnot, I would just say be conscious of the overall grip you're gonna get from this sole. So my first impression is that I like the upper construction and the midfoot security you get in the shoe. So I like the knit that you get in this model because it breathes well, it's pretty flexible, and if you want this shoe for longer walks or for just daily wear on top of your training sessions, I think this upper is gonna keep your feet pretty cool. So I do like the knit. And then when it comes to the midfoot security, I really like the lacing system. So we have 9 core eyelets that go up with a 10th back here for lace locking. And so when I first put the shoe on, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit of a pain to like loosen up all these eyelets and the laces, but once you got the shoe on and once you tighten them down, you get a lot of midfoot security, which I really started to appreciate because with this wider sole here, we could have a little bit of foot overhang if we didn't have good security. So the fact that this lacing system really locks down that midfoot, I think it gives this shoe a nice athletic fit and feel when you're doing different styles of training. So whether you're working laterally or doing explosive work or just doing sprint work, the shoe feels athletic and it feels really locked down on the foot, which I personally really like. My first impression is that I'm happy Inov-8 used their boomerang insole in this model. So essentially this insole is a foam / TPU bead insole, and it's designed to give you a little bit more ground feedback and response and energy return when training in your shoes. So I personally like this, and it took a minute to kind of get used to as well, but it gives you a little bit more cushion in the shoe. So if you are doing plyometrics or if you're doing sprints, this I think helps contribute to that G-Fly Plus midsole construction in this model to give it a very like high energy return feel and responsiveness when you're really digging into that forefoot and exploding forward. So that all being said, those are my first impressions with the Inov-8 F-Lite Fly G G295. I like that Inov-8 is implementing more of their proprietary construction features in this model to give it a slightly different feel, and I think if you're looking for that hybrid running shoe, this model could definitely be worth exploring. I will have a full review once again later next week on the shoe, so I'll break down the pros, cons, sizing, and I'll talk about the best context in which I think this shoe is going to perform the best. But that all being said, guys, as always, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions on this shoe, hit me in the comments below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer.